In a continuation of the growing debate within the U.S. Congress over foreign aid and military spending, Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene took to the House floor on Thursday to advocate for her proposed amendment aimed at halting American financial assistance to Ukraine. As the war in Eastern Europe persists and U.S. lawmakers remain divided over Washington's role in the conflict, Greene's remarks underscored a broader push among some conservative voices to scale back international commitments and redirect resources to domestic priorities. Her statement comes amid heightened scrutiny over the scope and effectiveness of U.S. support for Kyiv, raising new questions about the future of American involvement in the region. Watch until the end to get the main details and click the subscribe button and activate the bell so you don't miss the latest reports.
Pursuant to House Resolution 580, the gentlewoman from Georgia, Ms. Greene, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Georgia.
Mr. Speaker, as we're considering the Department of Defense appropriations of 2025, that is going to cost the American people $831 billion. My amendment would be that none of the funds made available in this act may be used for the assistance to the Ukraine war. This is a war that has nothing to do with America. Ukraine is not a NATO member nation, and is not the American people's responsibility to pay for this war, and it's not the American military's responsibility to fund it. My amendment would ensure that no further resources will be sent to Ukraine. To date, Congress has provided nearly $175 billion in assistance to Ukraine, including direct military aid, funding for their government, and other forms of economic assistance. For the past 4 years, we had a Democrat president that cared more about the borders of Ukraine than the country he swore to protect, the United States of America. They allowed our own country to be invaded by murderers, rapists, and terrorists, all while sending nearly $175 billion to defend the borders of Ukraine and fund their entire economy. Our country funded their government at $1 billion a month, and the American people were forced to pay for their businesses. At a time when our government shut down American-owned businesses, families could not afford groceries, and our people were suffering. It was reported that nightlife in Ukraine was thriving, and that there were more bars and restaurants open in the capital city, Kyiv, than before the start of the war. Yet the American people, they couldn't send their children to school, their businesses were shut down, and life here was closed, but the American people were paying for Ukraine. It was shameful that Americans were forced to foot the bill of the Ukrainian economy while ours suffered. Furthermore, Ukraine is one of the most corrupt governments in the world, and Zelensky is a dictator who, by the way, stopped elections in his country because of this war. He's jailed journalists, he's canceled his elections, controlled state media, and persecuted Christians. The American people should not be forced to continue to pay for another foreign war in a country that has no effect on our own, and we are not contractually bound to defend. Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
Gentlewoman reserves her time. The gentlewoman from, for what purpose does the gentlewoman from Minnesota rise?
Madam Chair, I rise in strong opposition to this amendment.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
First, the majority has already eliminated funding for Ukraine security assistance initiative in this bill. It's zero. I personally believe that to be a huge mistake, and that only emboldens Putin. And President Trump seems to be agreeing now, because just the other day he announced the decision to provide billions of dollars of equipment to Ukraine through our NATO partners. And I give the credit to the president for that decision. But now we have an amendment to further prohibit any support of Ukraine as they fight to defend their country from an illegal Russian invasion. Putin is attempting to rewrite the map of Europe through use of force. He's doing so in violation of international law. He's deliberately killing civilians, targeting hospitals, schools, destroying the economy and the livelihood of Ukraine in process. And Putin has put his thugs who are committing war crimes on a mass scale, and the United States and the Democrats democratic nations of the world, well, they're putting us on notice, and that's why we must strongly oppose him. If we do not, then he or other authoritarian leaders will likely try something like this again, either in Ukraine or elsewhere in the world. America is not alone in our military support of Ukraine. Our NATO and European allies are continuing to provide billions of dollars to support themselves, and that's in line with the decision that President Trump announced the other day. So let's not abandon the EU or our NATO allies now, and let's not abandon Ukraine. The Ukrainian people did not ask for this war. They deserve our continued support. I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment. And, Madam Chair, I'd like to yield 60 seconds to the gentleman from California.
From California is recognized for 60 seconds.
I rise in opposition to the gentlelady's amendment. Sadly, we saw for years how the Biden administration failed to provide Ukraine the resources necessary to fight back in an effective way against Russian aggression. Just the other day, President Trump took decisive action to provide weapons to Ukraine to defend against these unprovoked
As the
attacks.
debate over U.S.
The president is
support
right
for
to support
Ukraine
efforts to
continues
ensure
to
and
stir
survive
controversy
the
in
rule of law.
Washington and beyond,
He is right to
voices
undertake
on both
efforts to stop
sides
bloodshed,
raise compelling
continue to
arguments
work toward a
about
peaceful
national
solution,
priorities
but
and
not
global
now remove the
responsibility.
ability to provide weapons
What do you
that will
think?
help the Ukrainian
Should the
people
U.S.
further
maintain
losses
its support
and
for
use as
Ukraine,
leverage
or is
to
it time to
negotiate peace
refocus those
over the
resources at home?
For that, I urge
Share your thoughts with us in the comments below.